Hello, here is Dr. Gomez and Samar.
Hello.
Hi, we're from the University of Texas Health in San Antonio. I'm the Diagnostic Radiology Residency Program Director, and today we're going to have a questions and answers?
Yes.
Questions and answers about common concerns and questions that a medical student may have that is interested in radiology and is applying, and vice versa, questions that a program director may have that I would like to know information from the medical student. So let's have you start.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez, for the invitation. I'm excited to help out and provide some information today. So we can start with Dr. Gomez. I'm going to ask a few questions. So in your opinion, when should a medical student approach a program director about their interest in radiology?
So that's a good question that I obviously get plenty of times. I've had a lot of questions regarding should I start getting some interest or showing interest in radiology like in my first year of medical school, second year of medical school. And I guess my short answer is probably not. It's not going to help you if you're trying to just improve your chances into getting into the residency program. Probably it's not going to make a change. I think, of course, it's good if you just want to learn about radiology and try to see if it's actually something that you like. That's actually fair game. But in the first and second years, I think you should really concentrate in trying to get the best grades that you can and trying to learn the most medicine that you can. And if you can do some research, that probably will help you a lot. But using your time that you could be using to study for the step one and for your classes and get good grades, in trying to just rotate through radiology is not really going to help you in terms of chance to getting in a residency. But again, if you really want to learn what radiology is, I encourage you to do that. So I would say for sure third year, most of the students start deciding. And at that time, you can rotate through radiology. You can go through, some of the schools have radiology interest groups that they have become a key way to get information, because there's the senior students who have past information of their experience through the process of interview and all that. Mm-hmm. And that is very important. But you can also go to the program director, or the associate program directors also have very good information, as well as the residents. They usually have a lot of information of how things work in a department. So I would just leave it to the third year if you're just trying to improve your chances. Because the question usually is like, I got into medical school and I knew I was going to be a radiologist. Some people are like that. They already knew from the first year and they want to try to hit first, like they say. Yes. So I think it's probably save your energy and time and concentrate on getting good grades.
Thank you. Good information.
Yeah. So now it's my turn to ask a question.
Okay.
So Samar, I just want to like, as a medical student that you approach now the interview process, what in your mind are the must-haves of a residency program for you to consider them to apply and perhaps interview?
So some things that I think are essential in a residency program that I'm considering are probably number one is having a very nice and approachable group of faculty. So I think that having a program director or faculty that are passionate about education, passionate about teaching, passionate about mentoring, that can really take you a long way, no matter what kind of radiology you want to practice at the end. And thankfully, I've been blessed with amazing faculty like you, Dr. Gomez.
Thank you.
And that's like probably my number one, because that is the foundation for any kind of success that comes out of residency, in my opinion.
Awesome. So you would love for a residency program that has a mentorship program, like that help you out. But like, for example, what if you're from Texas, but then you say, well, I'm going to venture and try to move to the East Coast just to see how it is. And what would you consider in a program you know nothing about, except like what you see in the computer or group chats or whatever?
Some other things are I want to make sure that their didactics are structured and will prepare me for the board exam. and like the core exam. I want to know if they provide me with some sort of guidance towards doing well on the core. I want to know if they have a large amount of flow, like cases, studies for me to read.
Volume. Volume is king.
Volume. And the different pathologies too. I think that every location has its own like health differences and different prevalence of diseases in different areas, and that will be very interesting in contributing to my education. And
awesome.
That's pretty much all the top things.
Awesome. That's good to know. So we can make changes.
No.
All right, it's your turn now.
Okay. So, what are some valuable qualities that you think as future residents we should start to work on developing?
So, I guess I've been a program director for many years, and I would say that you will hear this a lot, but the best quality, there are several qualities, but the ones that I think are the best are probably somebody who really wants to do radiology. I think that a lot of the things is that you want to try to accept people who feel passionate about your field, because when people are passionate about it, then it's easier for them to study, come to work in time, and be industrious about their own education. So I think that's very important. We're trying to identify people who we know that truly feel passionate about this. And you can express this several ways, but the best ways are usually being voluntary, working with radiology projects in a way that you can show that you really like what you're doing, instead of, I just have to meet this deadline and stuff like that. And the other one, of course, is hardworking. I think residencies, including radiology, are very demanding, and hard work is essential. Nobody wants to have a resident that just doesn't want to work, for several reasons. First, because it gives you problems, and the worst nightmare for any program director is having a problematic resident, and having to deal with all that is really sad and takes a lot of time. And also, you get really along with your peers, and there's more camaraderie in the program if everybody works hard, because nobody feels like they're working more than other or just carrying other people's work. So those are the two things that, the qualities that you can see as a program director you want to have in an ideal resident. And at least for me, it's much more important than just having good grades and a good step one in a vacuum. Okay, there was just nothing else.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So, how important is for you location, or, geography of a residency program when choosing where to interview and where to apply? How important is to you the location?
So, if you ask a lot of medical students, they'll probably give you different answers, and they're probably going to be on two different sides. One side is medical students that are pretty limited and have some boundaries to where they're going to apply, probably because of a significant other, their family, something like that. On the other hand, there's probably going to be people who do not have any limits to where they apply, and they're really basing their decision on the program and its characteristics. For example, there are programs that are primarily academic in a large urban setting, and there's programs that are community and more like a lot smaller, but both have their pluses and minuses. Like if I go to an academic program, it might help me secure a academic faculty position once I'm done, or get that fellowship that is prestigious, or whatever fellowship that's my dream. Whereas if I go to a smaller based community program, I might get more hands-on experiences just because there's less people to do the work. So I might get more procedures in or things like that. So there's, I feel like, two different types of medical students, some that really care and some that really don't care at all.
Well, the reason I ask is because every year in the interview process and when we're doing all that, it seems to me that for a lot of people it's important, the geography. I think because historically people think that if, for example, we're in Texas and if somebody from Washington State applies here, is probably will thinking, well, this is a safety net because that's too far from where he is. And I just always wanted to know, I guess it depends on residents, but we we all want to give a chance to everybody, and I think that geography and location for us is something that a lot of programs kind of take into consideration, especially big state programs that are sponsored by state school, like University of Texas and all that. So that's what I'll ask you. But thank you for your answer.
Yes. Okay, so it's your turn now. What do you look for whenever you're selecting which applicants that you want to interview?
So that's a very good question. I think for now that the step one is still there. I know we already got the news that the step one is going to be a pass or fail, starting I think in 2021. So that would change how we do things, and it will be really hard to predict how that's going to be. But right now, because how the match and the ERAS works, I think that we receive big programs like ours receive up to 800, 1,000 applications a year. It's kind of a game. A lot of people just click and apply to a lot of places. And you use some filters, like we talk about geography, location. Okay, we're going to give priority to the people from Texas, just to say we're in Texas. And of course, some people use the step one, including ourselves. There's a lot of people ask me, students, is there a cutoff? Like, well, I got a 220 on my step one. Should I even apply to radiology? I think that some people use a cutoff, but most of the time it's not an exact number. Yeah. So, but yeah, some people say, if you want to go to a very competitive place, they probably give interviews to people with higher step ones, that 230, 235. And of course we look at the other things in the application, but it's just virtually impossible to read 800 applications. There's just, most of the parents don't have the manpower to do that, because that takes a lot of time, and the cost of a radiologist is really high to have them reading applications. So that's what they have to find a way to filter things out, so we can do things more. We can filter some things so we don't overwhelm ourselves reading at things all the time. So, but that said, I think that's important for applicants to know that there's 2 peaks in the interview season. I think when it opens up in October, a lot of people just send interviews, and everybody's really rushing to get the interview spot. But then as November comes along and December, a lot of that first batch of people start canceling because they get tired of interviewing in places. And then it comes a second wave of interview offerings. So if you have a low step one, for example, or low grades, you may not get a bunch of interviews right away, but if you wait, usually a lot of interviews come because of that second wave. And, November, December, and then coming into January. So that's important to know. But in all reality, yes, we use a step one, the grades, and we try to do something to at least reduce that number from 800 to 300 or 200, and then we read more the dean's letter, the all that stuff. So, but yeah, a lot of the parents use cutoffs, but a lot of parents also read a lot of the application. When I was at UAB, there was we had a Dr. Langston. He just took care of reading applications, so it was part of his job. So it was a more thorough evaluation of the application. So it differs, but most parents will have a cutoff, which will be somewhere around the step one and grades or something like that.
Okay, makes sense. It gives a good idea for medical students that are planning, or maybe they could be in their first year, so they need to know what to watch out for, how to be the best applicant they can be.
Yeah. All right, so now I'm gonna get to ask you another question.
Okay.
So this is kind of important. So what information would you ideally like to find in a residency program website, or how would you ideally want to acquire information about a residency program? What would be the best way to do it for you, or for applicants, through the website, or I don't know. I just want to know your thoughts about what would be the best way for a residency program to give you information about who they are. Social media, website,
So I think a website is one of the most important modes of communication between a future applicant and a program. And of course, having things like Instagram accounts and Twitter accounts, I think that's cool, especially if the residents are the ones managing it. I think it gives you an inside look at how these residents live their daily life as a resident, and I think it could add to the website. So, but most importantly, the website. What would I want to see on the website? So first, I'd like to see some kind of statement from the leadership, like the program director or the chief resident, for example, some kind of introduction. And I also want to see the current residents too. Maybe I relate to some of the residents and maybe I would be interested to work with them one day. Maybe we have similar research interests, something like that. And having a bio about the residents would be nice too. Where they went to medical school. Maybe we have some things in common. So the residents, I think there should be a program overview.
Okay.
Include information on what makes your program unique, the demographics of your specific population. What is it about your city that makes you special? Things like that. Also information about your didactics. And the more detailed you could be, the better.
Awesome. We need to work on our website for sure.
So didactics, and also fellowship matches as well. I think that's really helpful because some people may be going into residency 99% sure that they want to do mammography or MSK radiology. And they want to see, is this school producing radiologists that match in schools that I like, that I would possibly want to be a fellow in one day? And maybe even contact info to those fellows later on once they need mentorship. Another thing would be possibly adding more videos or pictures of the institution itself.
Like interactive stuff.
Maybe interactive things, maybe a video from the leadership or a resident, or just being creative with the modes of communication.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, this it takes a lot of work to keep updating the website, but it's important, and we personally are working on ours really hard to try to improve it and be more interactive and up to date. So especially now with the virus thing, that everything is kind of virtual, definitely makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. So I have another question for you. What makes you personally rank an applicant highly versus lowly in an interview?
So the interview, I guess once you have an interview, I think the game kind of equalizes and comes to zero. We talked about what strategies do we use to choose an applicant to give an interview. And that's more objective in a way of what we see in the application and what we can take out and do statistics and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But once the interview comes, everything starts in zero ground. And I think the interview process is just mainly to exclude somebody that is completely, let's say, crazy, or that, and you see not often, but once in a while you see people that say comments and stuff that you are like, oh my God, this is not, this is a person I definitely don't want. Like I've interviewed thousands of people in my life, and one time I had to ask an applicant, and I asked the applicant, a very common question. It's like, what mistake have you done in your life? And what have you done to make things better or to correct the mistake? And the applicant kind of thought about it, and then just told me, hey, if I want to be honest, one time I hit my girlfriend, and everything's good now, and I learned so much about it. But but that's something that obviously we don't even rank that applicant saying something like I hit my girlfriend. So I mean, you get to see stuff like that. So I think the best thing you can do in an interview is just try to be yourself, but try to stay away from anything controversial, like politics, religion, any of those comments. Even if they ask you about it, I think you should try to politely decline and try to stay in middle ground. I think the interview is no time for be talking about things that are controversial. But once the interview process is in, I think we're looking at people who are very personable. And quite honestly, you can carry a conversation, and you can feel like it's somebody you can have in your reading room and carry a conversation, and you're trying to gauge emotional intelligence. How emotional intelligent is this person? How this applicant knows how to approach the interview, the questions that they ask, how eye contact, undivided attention in the interview process. I mean, you sometimes interview people that that they're not there, that they're there, but in their body's there, but that and mentally they're not there. So undivided attention is very important, and everything that can boost the way that your emotional intelligence can come across. And so that's what we're looking at, because you only have 20 minutes, so you don't have much time to just know everything about the applicants. So after that, it definitely influences a lot how you rank people, the interview process, in a way that there may be somebody with 260 in the boards and 4.0 grades and not even being ranked or ranked lowly, and vice versa, somebody with maybe lower grades that did so well and is so personable and looks so enthusiastic that you end up ranking them higher. So that's all the things that we look for.
Okay. Thank you for that insight.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess from my side, so what initiatives from the radiology department here would you like to see in respect to medical students? You know, like, would you like in an ideal world to have better electives? How would you do that? More conference to medical students, or how would you change the conference that are given at this point? And would you like to have more collaboration? What things would you like to see from your radiology department?
So in general, here at our school, we're very active, and we have a very strong relationship with all our radiology faculty. So we've been very blessed, and we've achieved a lot of things together, like the Radiology Symposium. We've been doing that for 2 years now, and we have a research initiative that we're working on as well. And last year, that was our first year actually launching the initiative, and we've seen good results, and we're actually presenting the research at SIR.
Wow.
And even our educational initiatives. So there's a lot of room for communication. I think we're doing a great job. So I'm just going to highlight some more ideas that we could continue on developing for other people in different schools to also adopt if they would like to. I think we should have actual radiology professors teaching in anatomy, not only focusing on the dissections and the Netter's manuals, but also trying to include more radiology lectures. But we also have fourth year medical students that give radiology, I guess, tutorials to first year medical students, and they're supervised by our radiologists here. So we're kind of already doing that. I think something that would be cool that we haven't really done is having a like a reading station that medical students can come in and experiment with.
Okay.
I actually worked with one of our, the medical student education director here, and we actually had a reading station at our last symposium.
Okay.
And students were able to see how to dictate and
get busy.
Yes, and open the PAC system. So that was really, really awesome. So yes, research, helping us with the Radiology Symposium, which you guys have already been doing, and having guest lectures.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good to know, because we're always trying to, as a program and as a resident, as a director and a program itself, we're trying to, find ways to reach the students better and to showcase radiology and our program. But most importantly, what radiology is, because usually it almost feels like in medical school you don't get that real exposure of what we are. I think that, that symposium and definitely that's that station that you kind of see what you do and see images and play around, and it probably would help. Well, thank you.
I have a few more questions for you. So, can you tell us about how you rank applicants, like what the process is like?
Yes, sure. So after the interview, we, in most places, large places, there'll be several days of interviews. And, each day we interview 10 people, maybe 5. And here at the University of Texas in San Antonio, we interview every Wednesday. We interview 10 people. We interview, a total of 100. So in general terms, every program usually interviews 10 people per spot.
Okay.
So if you have 10 spots, usually you will interview 100 people. Those are kind of the numbers that most of the programs would use to in terms of interviews. Now, a lot of cancellations happen at the end because people are tired, don't have any more money and all that stuff, and you may end up with less interviews. But that's what you aim. So every time you interview a group, the committee, which usually is the program director, the associate program director, some selective faculty, and most likely the chief residents. The residents are usually involved in the process. We want to see they have a different perspective that we want to see, because they're close. Most of them are closer to the generation of the applicant, and it's really important to see their perspective. So every time there's an interviewee, the committee will meet and we'll discuss everyone and try to exchange ideas and what you like and what you did. And we populate a ranking list, a potential ranking list. And then the next day of interview comes and we do the same. We reshuffle all the applicants and then do a 20 people ranking. And then the third time, a 30 people ranking. And then the fourth time, 40 people ranking. Now, I think that what people would like to know more, in medical students, like, so if I interview first, would be, if I interview early, is it really good versus interviewing late? And I don't think it matters. Because you're going to hear a lot of people saying, well, if you interview early, people forget about you when they're doing their final ranking list at the end of, February.
That's a common concern.
And if I interview late, they're going to remember me better and that's going to be, good. But I don't think so. I think that it all evens out at the beginning in October and early November. Interviews are more interesting, but people are very energetic and, it's the starting of the interview process and people are trying to bring their best. At the end of the interview process, you should be more tired and there's less, it's just the way it is, less enthusiasm in the process. And, we found people that are extremely good at the beginning that end up being ranked really high, same as the end. So I don't think that really matters in all honesty. And basically because every program, this is a very, very long process. It takes a lot of time for the program and we try to do it very responsibly. We reshuffle that potential ranking list every interview day. So
wow,
that's how most.
That's very involved work.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right, I have the last question. I know you have more questions, but the last question for you is: we got to talk about this. Given the ongoing, coronavirus crisis, what are your biggest concerns regarding the application and interview process moving forward? And like most interviews, it's probably going to be virtual. I heard from the GME office here that 85% of the programs in the nation have already committed to do a virtual interview process. And so what are your concerns?
So I think obviously we should do what's best for the state of our public health.
Of course.
That's priority number one. But on the other hand, doing in-person interviews really does benefit the applicant in that they're able to see people in person, talk to residents in person, see the facilities in person, they get to explore a city that they're going to be living in for at least 5 years or 4 years. And so it could be very beneficial for the applicant. However, I'm sure you won't find any medical student that will be sad about saving money with hotels and airfare. But of course, that is an investment in your future, And I think doing virtual interviews it can definitely work. It could be appropriate, but we should take some measures to make it the best experience possible. It could be recording a video of the facilities.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what we're thinking too.
having a Zoom meeting with the program director and Zoom or whatever, video conference meeting with the program director, just like you would have it on interview day.
Yep.
And still have some kind of like personal connection to this person that could be across the country.
Okay. Video like, a lot of audiovisual stuff, like videos of our department and probably the institution and what do we offer.
The reading rooms, how they are.
And so it's going to be kind of a race of how can you perform the best video possible, right? And it looks more professional.
We'll see.
Yeah. So, but do you have any concerns that this will limit your chances of success and on getting the residency program of your choice, or do you think it's not going to have any impact?
So in general, I'm not that worried because DR isn't one of those specialties where everyone has to do like an away rotation, for example.
Yeah.
So I feel probably the only thing that would worry me is, will I like the city once I go there? Maybe I've never been to, Chicago.
Okay.
But I'm really thinking of a school there, for example. That's probably the only concern, but I don't think it'll really affect my decision, and I don't think it'll hinder me at all because at the end of the day, every medical student is going through this. I'm not the only
We're
medical
all in the
student
same
going
boat.
through this. So, and if I'm really interested in the program, I can always reach out and correspond to them and tell them that I'm very interested and tell them why I'm interested. So
That's awesome. Good to know from my part. All right, so I ask you a question. I know you have maybe 2 more questions or 3, but so I'm happy to.
yes, 2 more. So when we're going through these interviews, how do we, like, what are some helpful ways to determine if a program is going to be a right, I guess, fit for us?
Yeah, so I think that definitely you're going to hear this a lot, that the program gives you the right vibe.
Okay.
A lot of it is kind of intuition. Unfortunately, every program is going to try to tell them, and they're not going to try to tell them they're the best, but they're going to try to tell you that you will get a good education. And right, I think that maybe you should divide programs between big programs that are in big academic centers, and then smaller programs which are kind of semi-private or semi-academic. And the challenges is, for example, a small program may not have too many fellowships, so usually the residents get more exposure to cases and procedures because there's no fellows, but at the same time, the educational machinery is not as smooth or as good. It doesn't have the support of a bigger institution, and it may not have the same support from other programs like orthopedics or whatever. So everything is kind of on your personality. But to be quite honest, we all have to follow the ACGME rules and mandates, and in that sense, it's kind of homogeneous what you're gonna hear. In every residency program they're gonna offer, there's the Didactics, and there's money for education and books, and there's this type of, some you can moonlight, some residents you cannot for extra money, and that may be important for you if you have a family that you have to support, some things that you have to know. So it's kind of the city and more the vibe, something that you feel like, oh, well, I think these people were nice, something that I can just feel happy going to work every day. Because at the end of the day, like choosing, let's say, I'm just saying this for example, like from the University of Michigan to the University of Wisconsin, they're both big programs, they're really good. There's not going to be much of a difference except how you feel with the people and the things that you want to do. I think a lot of people, talk about research and all that stuff, and it's really important, and I encourage all residents to do research. There is even a pathway, the home track pathway. But the great majority of residents don't. I mean, residency usually is so demanding that they do research, but nobody's expecting you to be a PI with NIH grants, even though there are some people. It's more the exception. So I think it's all homogeneous in terms of what you're going to get as an education and to become a good clinician. So it's more, unfortunately, it's more like an intuition than like I would like to say, okay, my program is better than the others, but I think that, for example, if I compare to Diaz Marchand over there at Baylor, we offer kind of the same things. I think we as the leadership just try to foster an environment that, kind of gives the opportunity to the residents to take charge of their own education and have a positive reinforcement of the things they do and a positive environment and all that stuff. So it actually encouraged the resident to become better. But other than that, it's just about the vibe. So, I try to steer away. I'm saying, go to this place because they have a CT that we don't have. We all have CTs. We all have patients with all kinds of disease.
Yeah.
You're going to see that in most major academic centers. And it's what you like. Some people like brand names, right? Some people like to go to Harvard just to say a name, just because they want the diploma to say the brand name. And obviously those places have a lot of resources, so they have a very, very good program. So it depends on all of the vibe and all that stuff. That's kind of an unknown equation. You're going to have to dig deep into your heart.
I feel like at the end of the day, no matter what residency you choose, you're going to get a good education. You'll become an amazing clinical radiologist.
Yes.
You'll be trained well, no matter where you go.
Yeah. If you have the patience and the people to teach you, it's up to you. I mean, I always tell the residents when they come talk to me, I call the 50-50 rule.
Okay.
Right? 50% of your education is up to me as a program and leadership to offer you the tools necessary for you to become a competent radiologist. But the other 50% is up to you. And you have to be industrious and take ownership of your learning. And in all honesty, the only thing I can do as a leadership is make sure that I'm promoting you to take ownership of your learning.
Right.
And that's the way that we try, the best way to do it. And you're gonna get that from yourself if you feel very happy in a place. Okay, I'm happy. I like the people that I'm working with. I like the opportunities that I have here. So that's what you need to look for. Where are you gonna go that you're gonna feel more encouraged for you yourself to take ownership of the things that you have to learn. Because at the end of the day, and I can give you the best conferences, provide you with the best books and the state of the art, everything. And if you're not really interested in your own learning, it's not gonna happen. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. One last question. Okay. This is more of a personal question. I think it's important to ask. So, what inspired you specifically to work with medical students and residents?
Well, that's a good question. I think I think in academics, there's the trifecta, right? I'm an academic physician.
Okay.
And you either have to excel in research, administration, or education.
Okay.
If you excel in the three of them, well, you're golden. Or if you excel in research, right, it's very easy to prove what you're doing. You publish, and it's easy to prove. But I dedicated myself to education just because I've always loved to teach. I feel passionate about it. Unfortunately, as a program director, not everything is education. It's a lot of administration. But I feel like I'm very grateful for being here. I can name Dr. Colon in the University of Puerto Rico, Dr. Cherry Cannon at the University of Alabama in Birmingham, Dr. Loreto here, and Dr. Otto, people that have been my mentors, and without them I wouldn't be here. And it's also a way for me to give back, right? It's just, I'm so grateful to be so lucky to be here and have this great profession, take care of patients and take care of my family. So I try to give back as well. And to be honest, selfishly, it gives me joy. I think that education gives me joy. And I create a lot of educational content, and it's, like I told you before, I would do it for free because I just like it. So that's it. Well, Samar, thank you so much for sitting here and talking about residency programs. I hope this is helpful for some people that may have questions, especially medical students that are starting their journey and they have just decided, okay, I'm going to do radiology. What should I do? Just have an idea of the expectations.
And thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
I was super excited when I saw that you had this idea, and I really hope this helps